Question 28. In the name of Deputy Lisa Chambers, you have 30 seconds to put your question.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach. Minister, my question to you is to ask you what action plan you plan to take on foot of the recent review of the Eircode whistleblower claims. And Minister, if you could outline to this House what exactly was the purpose of that exercise, given that we now know Mr O'Toole, who conducted that review, was not in a position to actually carry out the review as per the terms of reference. And I'm sure, Minister, and you might confirm this to the House, I'm sure he flagged that with you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister Keogh.
Thank you very much, Deputy, for the question. The health and welfare of the men and women of the Defence Forces are a priority for me. This is why I ensure that protected disclosures alleging exposure to chemical and toxic substances were investigated by an independent third party. The reviewer's report has indicated that, given the breadth of the remit of the terms of reference, he commented in general terms on the Defence Forces safety regime. It must be remembered that prior to the receipt of the disclosures, litigation had been initiated in relation to the subject matter of the disclosures. This therefore complicated the approach to be taken in developing any parallel process. Notwithstanding this significant challenge, I put in place such a parallel process. In light of the legality complex situation, I believe that it was appropriate that an experienced legal professional was appointed. It was the view of the independent reviewer that the courts are best placed to examine issues in relation to allegations which are already subject to litigation. This is so given the historic nature of the complaints and significantly that it potentially affects the reputations and good names of individuals. What the report shows is a difficulty in putting a parallel process to the courts in place. The report also notes that the Health and Safety Authority is the appropriate statutory body to deal with such allegations. I furnished the report to those who made the protected disclosures, and before considering any further steps, I will await their views. Separately and in parallel to the independent review, following an inspection in 2016, the Eircode has continued to work with the Health and Safety Authority, the HSA, to improve the health and safety regime. I have been informed by the military authorities that the HSA has formally noted the considerable progress made to date by the Defence Forces towards implementation of a safety management system for the control of hazardous substances. In conclusion, subject to completion of the improvement plan, the HSA investigation is closed. However, it must be noted that the Eircode Health and Safety Officer is a matter of ongoing monitoring, supervision and adjustment.
Thank you very much, Minister. Now, is that a group question with 29? Because Deputy O'Snuddy has a similar question. Take them separately.
I think you have to take them separately because they're priority questions. My understanding.
That's fine. That's fine. You have a minute, Deputy Chambers.
I'm happy to stick separately, if that's okay with other deputies.
We'll leave it separately.
Yeah. Chair, just to note that the time is proceeded with every speaking.
Don't worry.
Minister, do I take it that you propose to take no action on foot of this report? In this House, you told me, when you were asked to conduct a health review of all potentially affected personnel, you would await the publication of this report before you would decide what action to take. So what actions are you, as Minister, going to take? Minister, let me read out a couple of sections to that report. Quite shocking, really. The terms of reference was to look into the disclosures made to you by 3 individuals. Mr O'Toole says in his report, "It was my intention to examine compliance by the Eircode with the relevant law and regulation. I was not in a position to consider the substances in use or any implications for human health arising from such use, as these issues are outside my competence." Minister, you appointed a lawyer to conduct this review, and we all have our limitations in terms of our competences and where we have our expertise. Surely, Minister, you knew in advance of this that this individual was not going to be able to examine the health implications of those particular toxic substances. This review does not actually look into the allegations raised by the 3 whistleblowers. He goes on to say, "It is my view that a review of the kind envisaged by the terms of reference set out above is impractical." Minister, you haven't answered my question. Did he flag this to you in advance of completing his report? And if so, why didn't you appoint somebody else with the competence to look at the toxic chemicals in question and the impact on the health of those soldiers? Because that is exactly why we're here talking about this. He then goes on to say, "It's not appropriate for me to pass judgment on compliance with the legal regime, which is a matter for the HSA. And he also goes on to talk about it being an informal review. And he goes on to say that the litigation will no doubt involve the issue of past compliance, and the court is best placed to examine this matter. Now, you've touched upon the issue of past compliance, and the court's been in a position to analyse this. That does not deal with the toxic substances, the impact on those soldiers' health, and what you, as Minister of State for Defence, are going to do to actually address the health implications of what those people went through.
Minister, 1 minute.
First of all, let me state to the Deputy, and I will repeat again, that these issues were before the courts, before the protected disclosures were made to my department. Upon the protected disclosures being made, and when I was appointed as Minister in May of 2016, whilst I was briefed on the protected disclosures issue, I felt personally the best way forward was to appoint a reviewer to look at the protected disclosures. The reviewer furnished his report to me. I forwarded the report to the military for their comments. Once I got and also sought legal advice on the issue. Once I sought the legal advice and once I got the report or the comments back or views back from the military, I then sent the report, furnished the report to the people who made the protected disclosure. I also put a copy of the reviewer's report up on the department's website for everybody to see. So I'm absolutely hiding nothing here whatsoever. I've been very straight up with the people. Once I receive back the comments from the people who made the protected disclosures, I will then decide on what further action to take.
Thank you. Final minute.
Minister, you still haven't answered a very basic question. Did Mr O'Toole say to you that, given the terms of reference, I am not in a position to examine the protected disclosures as requested? Did he flag this to you in advance of completion of his report? Because it will strike me as quite improbable that he did not. And your question, Minister, as to whether we can proceed to look at the toxic chemicals and the effect on the health of those soldiers. Yes, there is litigation in being, but that does not preclude us from investigating the toxic chemicals that they were exposed to and the likely impact on the health of those soldiers. So, Minister, my question to you is that will you authorise an independent and comprehensive health assessment of the informant's claims and of the Defence Force's health and safety record in dealing with hazardous chemicals over the past 25 years. Ultimately now we have to ensure that this inquiry takes place and that we look into the actual real impact on the lives of those individuals that were affected. And if they were affected, as I have stated previously in this House, if the state is somewhere responsible for a negative impact on the health of serving and past serving members, we need to stand up, take ownership of that, not hide behind the litigation, and actually put in place a proper health package for those people. Will you do that, Minister?
Thank you very much, Deputy.
Let me assure the Deputy that I won't be hiding behind anybody or anything or any document. I've been very straight up with the recipients or the people who made the protected disclosure. I give them an opportunity to meet me. Two of the people who made the protected disclosures took up that offer. I met them. I give them ample opportunity to raise whatever issues they did on that occasion. Also, in parallel to what is happening with the independent reviewer, the HSA, the Health and Safety Authority, have visited the Air Corps. They gave a list of instructions and procedures for the Defence Forces and the Air Corps to carry out. The Defence Forces carried out. They have been in constant contact with the Health and Safety Authority, and they are carrying out all of the actions that the HSA set out for them. And let me state, Deputy, that one thing I wasn't going to do was to limit the T&Rs of any for the reviewer. When I was setting out the terms of reference for the reviewer, I kept them as broad as possible, the way he would be able to investigate all aspects of any allegations that were put in place.
Thank you. Okay, that's it.